So it's all this off-radar research going on where people are asking different kinds of questions to get educated and empowered enough to know what car to buy, what house to buy, what to look for in a widget, what to look for in a certain kind of service, what should I look for in a coach, how do I know that this is going to work for me? If you can learn the kinds of questions people are asking, and you can get some insight into their unmet values. And I'll give you an example. Well, Henry Ford said if he asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses.
Martians landed?
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits?
Yes.
Drinking Henry's seltzer?
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit?
Yes, and?
Your branding here?
Yes, brand.
Your message here?
Yes, and?
A verse about?
Yes.
Your product here?
Yes.
I'm Hirsch Redmond.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world.
Yes.
Or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
Hitting the brand voice runway with me today is Chris McNeil. Chris is the founder and CEO of Thaut Inc., Thaut Inc. He's the host of Thaut Leadership Studio podcast, on which I have been a guest. I don't think my episode has aired yet, but we are enjoying each other's company once again today. And today we're going to talk about the mind game of marketing. Chris is certified in design, human engineering, and neurolinguistic programming as a master practitioner. So he likes to get into the mindset and innovative ways to make the mind work for you in marketing. Welcome, Chris McNeil.
Great to be here, Hirsch. I appreciate you.
It's wonderful to see you again. So tell us what your favorite part is of the work that you do.
The favorite part of the work that I do is the inspiration that comes from seeing a leader have a light bulb light up with this aha moment, that if I package my thinking this way, if I organize these trains of thoughts that I've had that are kind of innovative, but maybe haven't gotten the traction I thought they would, but if I organize them the right way, then I can make a difference. And not just in succeeding by getting more customers, getting more leads, converting those leads more easily, stuff we all want to do, building an audience, but by literally moving the thinking of an audience somewhere that's going to give them more of what's important to them.
And how have you kind of come to this business of having your own thought leadership, practice?
Well, probably by being a huge contrarian.
Okay.
I can't do anything the standard way. I can't look at any field or profession or marketplace and think that the way we're doing it is the right way. I've always got to look for something different. And that's actually served me well. I used to be in the fitness business, and I ran big box health clubs, and I was in my early 20s. And I was like, this model sucks. We're selling people these memberships, hoping they don't show up because then we can't sell more memberships. And I invented, so to speak, I wasn't the first one to do it, but the first, in at least my marketplace, to organize things around aligning the customer results with the business interest by opening a chain of one-on-one training studios where it's month to month. If you're not succeeding, we don't succeed. Now we're charging you more, but you got a trainer every time because it's engineered around your success that we are measuring and creating a confidence building process of goal achievement that helps you feel more confident in your ability to change your body. And I didn't call it thought leadership at the time, but I developed a model of organizing around goals that gave people a fast experience of success. I wrote what I called newsletters at the time, we call blogs now, to educate people on how diets just create a roller coaster and you slow your metabolism unless you do exercise the right way, but it doesn't have to be as hard, long, or painful as you probably thought. If you organize things properly, it doesn't have to be that hard at all. You can feel success pretty quickly and manage your lifestyle, properly, instead of thinking about going on a diet, change your lifestyle. But these are principles that were alien to a large marketplace of people who were on the couch because nobody had motivated them enough to get off the couch and make a change. So we had over 2,000 clients over 10 years. And I sold them in 2008 to Friendly Competition and started doing marketing because I'd written software for those studios. It got some national recognition and got me a large contract with a very big chain of restaurants to write wellness software for their employees, but also started writing marketing software and software to kind of take all the things we do in SEO and content marketing and email marketing, organize them around one interface. Found a certain size company loved that they could have a group come in and handle everything for them. But what I started realizing was that the companies that were successful, and I applied what I learned in NLP, which is how to model excellence, how to decipher, the athlete who says, I just do it. I just know how to get in the zone, but they're actually going through a ritual of steps, a sequence of things mentally that puts them in that perfect state of excellence for them. And when somebody doesn't know how to interview them and pull out their strategies for excellence, but you can find these strategies for excellence in business. And I found that the breakthrough customers we worked with, the ones who could grow 200% in a year, that could increase their market share by 30% in a couple of years, it could just, go bonkers and following the things that we're teaching them, they're the ones who saw themselves as the leaders, not just in market share, but the leaders of the thinking in their marketplace. They saw themselves as the ones who are going to empower people to think about what they did a different way. If you're looking to get a swimming pool, you should have it done this way, this particular method that we developed that ensures that you get what's important to you out of it. And it ended up being a common factor. So it's through the success modeling that I realized that this stuff is learnable, this stuff is teachable, and stuff can be optimized. And what I ended up calling it was strategic thought leadership. And it's different from, I guess, somebody who just says, I'm a thought leader because people trust what I say.
Right.
Sure, that's important, but it was more about literally leading thought, literally leading people to new beliefs. Because when you do that and you do it well, you own a market segment, you own an audience, because they just want to do business with you because you've taught them how to get more of what's important to them out of what you do, where all your competitors are just doing the standard status quo.
Yeah. And I think that, Chris, in a way, if we were gonna trade in kind of clever monikers or something, you could say you're the godfather of thought leadership, because it's not thought leadership like everybody is throwing around now, where it's like, oh, they're a thought leader in the field of blank. It's literally this thought leadership that guides people to the solution that's best for them, to the goal that they want to achieve, empowers them. So it isn't so much about, I'm going to teach you how to be an original thinker or a leader in your field. I'm going to guide you to find the solution that is going to be the right one for the result that you want.
That's right. That's right.
And that's where the mind game part becomes so integral. And how did you become interested in NLP and human design?
Well, I originally was in college to be a sports psychologist, and I was always attracted to the performance aspect of psychology, not what typically is done in counseling psychology, where you want to dig into your childhood and relive all the horrible things that happened to you.
Right.
But what sports psychologists are doing was training athletes to access higher levels of performance, how to get in the zone, how to have their best day every day, how to increase their motivation and focus it on goals. And this ended up being stuff that is extraordinarily useful in the field of fitness. And it became part of the models that we built because it's all about motivation and behavior change. But that also applies to a lot of what we do in marketing. We're motivating people to enrich their lives through whatever it is that we're offering them. And if we can motivate them and help them focus on what's really important, but it also provides tools for analyzing market thinking in a way that I don't think is very common. At least I'm not seeing it, even with these new AI tools. And we've started to build our own AI tools to support this. But it's because of this paradigm shift I see happening, where and still a lot of people think of marketing like from the days we could buy newspaper ads and interrupt somebody's attention, push marketing. And it has its place. But when you start to realize that 80-something%, 81 to 89%, depending on what study you look at, of people say the research online before making a major purchase, even an offline purchase.
Right.
There's a lot of pull going on out there for empowerment. People want to learn how to make a smarter buying decision. But that thinking process happens off the radar of most business leaders because they don't get contacted by the person until they've gone through this process and refined their thinking enough to feel confident in reaching out to a company.
Yeah.
So it's all this off radar research going on where people are asking different kinds of questions to get educated and empowered enough to know what car to buy, what house to buy, what to look for in a widget, what to look for in a certain kind of service, what should I look for in a coach, how do I know that this is going to work for me? If you can learn the kinds of questions people are asking, and you can get some insight into their unmet values. And I'll give you an example. Well, Henry Ford said if he asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses.
Right.
So the insight doesn't come from just saying, oh, what do you want? It comes from understanding the structure of language. And that's what neurolinguistic programming has done. And for me, is to understand the structure of language enough so you can read a conversation in a place like Reddit where people speak openly, or like in a long comments thread on a polarizing blog. If you write a blog that ticks some people off because it's polarizing, people will tell you what their values are or what their beliefs are if they feel like they're being stepped on. So you can gather insight into unmet values. And I'll give you an example. A client has a youth sports fundraising company and has an app to help like kids hockey teams and kids soccer teams raise money. And this, multi-billion-dollar business. These kids all need money. They do fundraising. And this whole wave of apps came out and said, hey, instead of doing a car wash, use our user-friendly app. You just press a button, send a text to all your uncles, and you raise money. Well, we found these threads of conversation between the people who made the decisions, the parents and the coaches. And they were saying things like, what's that teaching the kids? We used to have to work to raise money. They're entitled enough already. When I went to school, you had to walk uphill to and from school. But what is that? Hirsch says they're telling us an unmet value of growth for the kids. So I went to the founder and said, what you do is partner with charities. Take your app, partner with charities, co-promote the charity's message, give them a small percentage of the funds you raise, or have the kids do volunteer work. Make it about the growth of the kids.
Yeah.
And this is like a solopreneur starting an app company in this huge, crowded field of big players. This model led him to front page articles in sports sections of major newspapers. This model led him to a deal with a chain of sporting goods stores, like 100 plus different stores in there who just wanted to work with him. Constantly gets messages and emails saying things like, wow, we've been looking for a way to get kids involved in the community. We never thought about doing it through fundraising. I love what you're doing. We're only going to use your company going forward. Because we developed a new model of the industry that resonated with values that the competitors were just completely missing.
So now we know a little bit about what makes you tick, I think, and what has inspired you to do what you do. Let's talk a little bit about how your operation is structured, your business is structured, and how you're marketing this brand of yours, this thought leadership brand and strategic thought leadership. I think the strategic part is really important, for me to include when I refer to what you do. Tell me how the business works.
That's a great question, Hirsch. And it's a bit of an intricate answer that might take a little history because I've had the digital marketing agency, Fifth Level Web, since 2008. And what I found is approaching organizations as a digital marketing agency. In a lot of cases, you can be perceived as down to hierarchy, someone to delegate to, someone to make things easy. Oh, here's money, bring us leads. But then you're not getting the engagement. Then you're not in a position to extract the best thinking of the organization and help them package it. So change the model, still have the agency and still run support on the back end. It doesn't work with every client. Now we have the coaching and consulting program, and that's the start. And I do a test program with every single incoming customer. It's relatively inexpensive. Any company could afford it. It's a month-long program, sometimes 2 weeks if they're in a hurry, sometimes 6 weeks if we take a little longer, but it's a discovery program that answers questions about market insight, gives me an opportunity to interview the leaders of the company in a group one-on-one, different in every situation, or if it's a solopreneur type situation, do a series of collaborative interviews where we're exploring possibilities, sharing some of the insights from this market research, like, hey, we're finding that your audience is pulling for this value and the standard mode of your industry is not doing that. So here's an opportunity, and try and create a map for them of here's some potential thought leadership positions. And there's a structure to the whole thought leadership model building process. It has 9 components, and we can define these 9 components, at least in a rough sketch kind of way, that will always empower companies' marketing if that's all we do. But we have yet to have that be all we do, because it generally sets a stage to know what type of working relationship is going to work, what mix of coaching, consulting, fractional CMO work, and digital agency support. Sometimes we don't even do the digital agency stuff because it confuses the roles too much. Because once you start writing content for an organization, you can kind of get in the weeds on the content, and it's all about editing it to fit what you like and getting the pictures you like and all this stuff. But I need to work with the high level people on a high level in a relationship of equality, because information doesn't flow up and down in a hierarchy. It flows between equals. And I'm working on their thinking, and I'm working on sharing the thinking in the marketplace. I'm working on helping them access these states of inspiration and insight, saying things like, I want you to feel really empowered. So you have time. You have time to reflect on these findings. You have time to reflect on maybe how your marketplace thinks that you haven't thought of before, because like most people who are trained by big data to see people as data points, where we study their history to predict what they're going to do next. What we're doing instead is we're listening to what's important to them that they probably couldn't even articulate for themselves. We're listening to find their belief systems about how they see how to use your product or service.
Right.
And what they might really love they never would have thought of, because here's an important unmet value that none of your competitors have attached to what you do, that you could, when you start thinking of a creative approach, well, we're co-creating with the customer to create a vision of something new that they wouldn't have thought of on their own, but you can think of for and with them with these insights to lead the industry in a different direction. Because it's leadership based, it's creativity based. We're not expecting people to behave like they did last week. We don't care about that kind of data. We're responding to all this research pull that's going on. We might do some paid placement, which you can do in a non-invasive way, of course, with contextual type placement to move the PR needle faster and things like that. But it starts with the coaching and consulting. In every case, we might bring in the digital agency. It might be X number of hours per month acting as CMO and planning content together. It might include producing content. It's a little bit different in every case, but that's why we do the short-term exploration, discovery program. Let's just do this short discovery program. find out the best mode of working together, discover the hidden assets within the intellectual property of your organization, of your top people, and how those can be brought fully to life and organized in a way that's going to resonate with an audience and bring people to you.
Yeah, it's interesting because, in my world, as coming at things from the brand voice perspective, I do something similar in process, which is this message therapy concept,
Right.
where
Uh-huh.
I'm serving, right? We talked about it a little bit, where I'm kind of like a therapist to them, and I'm having a session where they're kind of opening up their brand to me, and they're sharing their motivations and their challenges and their fears and their thing, and we're kind of doing this open heart surgery on their brand, for going really deep inside, and then figuring out what's happening, because it is a diagnostic situation. We don't know what treasures or challenges or scars or whatever else might be in there. And so I think that period of time, and that makes sense. Some people have a month, some people want to do 2 weeks, but either way, it's an opportunity to engage with you and feel each other out. How do you price that? Like, how do you figure out how that works for them as an engagement?
That's real simple. That's about $2,000, and
Yeah.
includes up to 4 meetings and the research in between. Makes it real simple, short,
Yeah.
inexpensive program. That's going to be much more expensive depending on the level that's right for the organization or even the solopreneur after that. That makes it a real easy bite for them. And that's what I love about your approach too. I think there's a lot of common ground because you do so much to set up the system conditions for open communication.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
key. I think a lot of marketers miss that. It's just easy to miss as people are programmed to buy certain things in a certain way in terms of buying their marketing spend. And they don't step
Yeah.
back and take a look at the whole system. And that takes being willing to be open, and approaching it like a therapist is kind of sets the stage for, we're gonna do a little digging into what's under the surface here.
Right. And it allows us to, in what both of us are doing, allows the client to take a step back. Like you said, we're charging forward. Everybody's charging forward. They want to meet the customer, right? They want to get right out there, up to how do we get the closest to the customer? And it's like the push pull factor that you touched on.
That's right.
How do we get face to face with the customer? How do we get them in the door? How do we get them to stay? How do we get them? And it's like, okay, wait, first figure out, who you are and what's going on there. And then let's figure out together first of all, who's going to respond to that? Who's going to need that? Maybe their avatar isn't who they thought it was. Maybe there's sectors, segments of the consumers that they don't even know about. They haven't even thought about.
Right.
It's perspective, but you're right. You got to open yourself up to communication. Speaking of the push pull thing, so I know this is a tentative title, but you're working on your book, right? And you
That's
were
right.
possibly calling it Pullfillment.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that.
Well, the book is about exactly that concept, Pullfillment. And it's about acknowledging that people are already pulling online to learn about whatever it is you do, whether it's a product or service, field profession. People are researching. The average person spends 6 to 7 hours a day online. They're looking for content. They're not looking to be sold to.
Right.
They're looking for a buying experience sometimes when they're ready, but a lot more of the cases, they're looking just to learn about stuff that's interesting to them that might lead them to a purchase. So when you acknowledge the pull for learning, and that's the way it's separated into 2 stages: purchase pull. And I learned a lot from guys who ended up being kind of a mentor and friend to me, John Seddon, who developed the Vanguard method in the UK, which has taken systems thinking like Edward Deming did for Toyota, by looking at manufacturing as an end-to-end system that is designed to produce cars at the rate of demand for a customer. And he was behind the manufacturing revolution in Japan by taking this whole systems view. Well, John Seddon has done that for service businesses and looking at it as a whole systems view. And in the service business, there's a few systemic levers that can create breakthroughs. And that's how his team goes in, and they'll have an organization jump up in sales by 30-40% while simultaneously reducing expenses 30 to 40% in a matter of months. It's insane. But what they do is they take the leaders to the front lines at the point of exchange with the customer and start to see how all of these ideas, programs, customers, customer interaction limitations that they put on the front line actually distorts the system and prevents the customer from getting what they want. And instead design their service exactly to the demand of the customer, to give the customer exactly what they want, if possible, at the first point of contact. And if not, in as few contacts and as easily remove all the friction from the customer getting what they want, which is not always what the leaders thought the customer wanted or what they thought they were trying to sell. So it creates a really fast systems redesign through this awareness. Well, I asked the question, what if we draw a larger boundary around what we call our business that includes all the media we create and apply similar principles to designing to demand of people who are pulling for learning ahead of pulling for a purchase? People are pulling for learning in it, and we can't see them face to face necessarily, but we can extrapolate from what we learn by studying our service the way the Vanguard group does. But we can learn about how people pull in media through things like long tail SEO, keyword research, what kind of questions people ask. Or like I was mentioning earlier, analyzing conversations with an NLP model that pulls out their values and beliefs and starts to unpack the norms of an industry, unpack the thinking of the audience about it. How does the world think about what we do in terms of values and beliefs and how they see themselves as their identity? Think of the Marlboro Man as identity marketing. Harley Davidson's good identity marketing. They market to an identity. That's high level marketing. So identity is a high level of change. Beliefs are a higher level of change than just skills and knowledge. But skills and knowledge can be part of thought leadership. Teach people how to be better at riding a motorcycle so you can sell more motorcycles. And they'll live longer so they can buy more motorcycles later if they're safer riders. But when you actually impact people on the beliefs level, that's the leverage for change. So when you find out what those beliefs are, both of your competitors, like an example of that youth sports fundraising company, all their competitors were selling convenience, was not matching the unmet higher value of growth for the kids. It's actually stepping on that value. And they were out of touch with them. And we'd been similarly out of touch if we hadn't done that research and started to look at these conversations and looked for what do people really want? What's the value they're not getting, and what are the models that they have? How do they think this is supposed to be used? Where does it fit in their life? Because it might fit in their life in a whole new and different way. It might be able to elevate the use of something, and that can apply to any business. That's why I say, isn't thought leadership just for hiding technical stuff? No, it can work for a barber. We're teaching the customers that you're here for the experience. We provide wine for you. You're here for, for the rapport that we create that nobody else does, and the environment we create, because this is what you should expect when you come in for this. It's not just about your hair, but no matter who you are or what you do, you can benefit from practicing the principles of strategic thought leadership in my model of the world.
Yeah. Now, to kind of tie this up in a bow, because I think it will be a fascinating episode to a lot of our listeners, because when they think about entrepreneurialism and business and building businesses, a lot of the people that listen are, newer to building their own businesses or owning their own businesses. This is really kind of eye-opening in terms of building a roadmap for your own success. My final question to you would be, as you have such a research-oriented and kind of data-driven, and on the one hand, sense of how operationally things work, and then at the same time, you have this very kind of heart-centered, personal fulfillment, recognition of how people are putting that together. How big can what you do get? In other words, how can it be done for the most people or for the widest number of people, the largest audience for the processes that you work in?
I see that happening through licensing training to agencies to bring in systematic practices of strategic thought leadership. We're working on software to support this that assists in the research. It uses AI to help separate out things like values and beliefs and give a more systematic, and we do this, we do a lot of it manually now. AI does some of it, but as the software evolves, it's going to be like a kit for an agency to say, hey, we're helping you with your media, we're helping you with all these methods. Let's start honing in on bringing some structure to your message and use some market insight so you can strategically practice thought leadership in your industry. So that's how I see it happening. I don't want to have a company with 1,000 employees. I only want a company with 900 employees,
Right.
because I just thrive more on the coaching aspect, and I don't want to get too far from that. It happened in my fitness business. After we opened so many studios, I got less satisfied because I wasn't participating in the success of clients. But what I would love to do as this evolves and gets more systematic support so it can be replicated by more, to license it to others to do, so that we participate in making the internet a more fun, healthier place for everybody. When people think about empowering everyone in each piece of media and know that, hey, emergently from empowering them, we'll make more money than if we were targeting them, it's going to make the internet a better place.
All right.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and
it worked for you,
yes, then
subscribe and leave a
yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yes.